I start this video, I would just like to come on here and remind you guys that here at Melanin Eclectic, Black lives will always matter. And this is Black everything. Black people, Black culture, Black lives, Black careers, Black existence. We stand by my people, and if that bothers you, this might not be the channel for you. But let's get on with the video. Hi guys, I'd like to welcome you guys all back to my channel. I am Brittany, and for those who don't know, I am a bullet journal enthusiast. And we have started a beginner bullet journal series, and we are on episode number 2, which is journals, sizing, and paper types. Now, this topic is actually very, very broad in a sense that, like, if you're in the manufacturing world or like trying to make your own notebooks and planners like I've been trying to do, then this is a little bit more complex than you realize. But also, like, just in the planner world, it can seem very overwhelming when you see all the different types and sizes and international sizes versus the American sizes and the Canadian sizes, and all of that can get very, very jumbled. But I'm going to try to give you a simpler way of looking at it from a bullet journal perspective and try to offer some suggestions and things you should look for when you're trying to decide on the perfect journal for your bullet journal. As usual, I would like to preface this with I am not an expert. I'm just sharing with you guys the information that I know. As usual, Google is 1000% free. So if you need more information, you can always include Google. I'll try to remember to include some links down below that have charts and things for those who are more visual learners. And I do have some example journals down here so we can do size comparison and things like that. So don't freak out. Don't worry. I got you. We are only on episode 2. So let's get started. So usually when you're looking for a bullet journal, there are a bunch of questions that you get. What kind of paper? What kind of journal? What size journal? What type of format? And all of that. So we're going to try to break this down in that kind of aspect. So we're going to start with the easiest one. Usually bullet journals, books you can use for bullet journals, they come in multiple ways, but you can either get them lined, dotted, graph, or blank. There are some planners I think out there that have multiple interfaces, but that's generally the ones that you have the options to choose from. Me personally, I like dot grid. It gives me more creative freedom, and unlike graphs, the dots are a little more opaque, so they don't show up as heavily as a graph journal does. Though I have seen some very pretty journals that are graph paper, and it's like the graph paper don't even exist. So with this particular thing, I always ask people, because I know some people prefer lines, so it's like, which do you want to write on? Because at the end of the day, this is a planner, so do you feel more comfortable writing with already made lines, or do you want to make your own lines? Also, another thing that you look at with this is how far the spacing is between the lines. So you're like, they tell you like what the space is between them or how big a dot square is. And that's also another way to make lines. So it's not complicated, I promise. It sounds overwhelming, but it's not. Another thing with planners that's actually kind of simple is that they have different color pages. Let me get my bullet journal to do a comparison. I have a Scribbles That Matters, which is more of a white, a Leuchtturm. Oh my gosh, sorry. Trying to find blank pages in these bad boys. Oh, whoop. A Leuchtturm, which is not as white as the Scribbles, but still kind of white. And then I have a Dingbat, which, wow, doing this one hand. A Dingbat has ivory paper. So that's something that you have to look into when you're trying to figure out like which kind of paper you like. Me personally, I prefer my journal pages to be more white. They look better with photos, and to me, my spreads always look a little off when they're on like non-white pages. Like I always kind of side eye what I'm doing in them, so just something to keep in mind. The number one question that I've heard from people is that they don't know what type of planner, what type of thing that they should get. And to be honest, because obviously our next episode will be the bullet journal starter kit. But for what I tell everybody is, do you like soft journal or hard journals? Because me, I am a hardcover person, but I have actually tried the soft cover version. So the thing to remember is that hardcovers are a little bit more durable in terms of just being able to throw it in your bag and go, as well as darker colors are easier in that regard. Whereas soft cover, you do have to be careful how you put it in your bag and things, because it will bend. There is a water resistant aspect to the cover, but as far as durability, you do have to be careful, especially with like the edges and things. Like I said, me personally, I prefer hardbound, but you can get some work done in the softbound. This is what I used for my YouTube life when I first started trying to figure out how to integrate it. One day I will show you guys the craziness that is this planner, because it was a learning experience. But yeah, so that is also something else you consider. If you have a planner, or rather, it depends on it's not even a hard thing to do. Try them both. I've tried them both. I recommend starting with one for like the first half, because depending on how you bullet journal, you might not be able to get a whole year in one bullet journal. So because of that, you might end up with 2 a year. Try one soft and one hard. Also keeping in mind that not all of the options are available for both of them. So depending on the size, you might only be able to find one or the other, or you might be able to find both. It really just depends, and then you just pick one from there. I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible without freaking people out, but I can literally see people like Willa in the comments from the first video with the steam coming out. Yeah, I could totally see that little emoji right now. So I had to write these down because there are a lot, because we're going to talk about journal sizing. Now, if you're buying a lot of these brands, they have things like A5, B6, composition, Cahier, micro, mini. All of these things are denoted to a specific size of planner, and usually when they say sizes like that, they are referring to the international sizing of paper, not the American. Now, the American sizing, you could think of like half letter, legal. That's American. And there are some close comparisons in the ABC international sizing, but for the general part, they're kind of slightly off. Like, for example, half letter and A5 are very similar. This is not an A5. We'll talk about that. Ugh. This is an A5, which is technically what they consider half of letter. I personally like the A5 because it's not too big. It is kind of the size of like a book that you would read. That's why I personally like it. This is a B5, and as you can see, they are drastically different in sizing. In the international paper world, they have A, B, and C, and they denote different types of printing styles. Again, I will leave links to the charts because it's just easier to see it on a chart form. But I personally go for A5. Most of my journals in the past couple of years have been A5. Now, how is that in reference to something that's easier for you to grasp? Let me get a regular happy planner size for you. So this is my A5 journal, and this is the my homemade home planner that I use the outer cover of a happy planner that I used to have as the sizing. So this is the size difference. So as you can see, it's a pretty well compact planner. Do I push for A5 a lot? I do. And there are other sizes that you can consider. But when you're looking at like a size, I always say look at the size chart, because just because it's an A1 or A0 or A2 or A4, A4s are actually bigger than A5s, whereas B6s are smaller than B5s. Yeah, there we go. A4s are bigger than A5s, but B5s are bigger than B6s. That makes sense, because these are the different sizes. So when I say all that to say, I always say, like, it seems confusing until you look at the measurements. Highly recommend it. Like, just picking something off of, like, because it's cute. Always look at the measurements. It's just easier. It's a little bit extra work, but it's better than getting it and realizing that you wanted it bigger or smaller, okay? Some common journal sizes that you will see a lot are A4, the B5 composition, A5, the Cahier Moleskine, which is the size, Moleskine is a brand, so usually you will see that size on there. That's the sizing. B6, A6, A7 micro, personal size, and then sometimes you'll see mini. And there are a lot of mini planners. I know that because I've gotten a lot of questions about mini planners and like my planner stickers. So again, you can get them smaller than this. I have seen beautiful mini planners, and I will try to look for some Instagram accounts or something that you can get inspiration from for those sizes. But you can get them small. Like, this mug fits everywhere with no problem. I just prefer bigger because I do like a little bit more writing room. Another thing that you should consider when you're looking for a planner is the paperweight. Now, paperweight is usually given in pounds or GSM. I could get into the technicalities of what all that means, but you don't really need to know that. What you do need to know is the higher the weight or the GSM, the thicker and more durable the paper is. So I use a Scribbles That Matters. That is 160 GSM, which is about 90 pounds of paperweight. I can put this in a better perspective for you as a 20-pound paper is what common printers use. So like in the office and stuff, that's like 25 or 20 to 24 pounds. Usually 24 pounds is what you use when you're using like ink printers or something like that, because you're looking for that texture. Also with the pound or with the weight of the paper, you're looking for a certain type of feel of the paper. Not all paper is super smooth. That is something that has to be specified or something that you have to figure out yourself. I can say for a fact that I feel like, because I haven't felt this paper in a while, Leuchtturm has some beautiful, smooth paper. Actually, a lot of Japanese planners, Hobonichi's, all of those, the paper is so smooth. Your pen will write on it like butter. However, I guess we'll just start talking about this now. Like, I guess we're gonna just jump into the whole like things I've experienced with journals. Let's get this together. So I can't necessarily comment on the ones that I haven't, but I will say that I do want to try Archer and Olive for my next bullet journal. I just love the quality. Like, their journal looks really, really pretty, and you can get different types. So we will be doing an unboxing of that in December probably. But they are a little pricey. And that's the thing, like, some of these planners that I'm about to mention to you, they're not the cheapest planners. So if you want a beginner bullet journal and you don't want to spend Leuchtturm, Scribbles, or Archer and Olive prices, there are journals like Walmart has the Exceed brand of journals. Their journal paper, I use the Exceed journal as my personal journal. Their paper is not white, but it's a decent bullet journal to start with if that's where you want to start. They also have hardcover and softcover too, in multiple sizes. And I think the most expensive one was like $10. So if you want to start off with something a little bit cheaper until you feel more comfortable, that is something that I did before I jumped into the Leuchtturm world. I was using regular college ruled notebooks. I don't have them anymore. I didn't think to keep them, but I was using regular notebooks and just coloring and drawing in what I wanted. It doesn't have to be a book that's denoted for bullet journaling for it to be considered a bullet journal. I'm just at a point where I'm very comfortable bullet journaling, so I don't mind investing a little bit of money. Plus, they're good memory keepers, so I like keeping them, and I never thought I would be showing these to y'all, but yeah. So when I finally got comfortable enough to start like bullet journaling on YouTube and stuff, I decided that I wanted to get bullet journal, like an official bullet journal. So I started with the Leuchtturm brand. So this is the Leuchtturm 1917 brand. I think it was Boho Berry was the first one that I watched that I wanted this. I like this planner. Please ignore all of the paper and junk that's in here. I like this planner because it is, compared to the other planners, it is thinner. there is less paper in this planner, but the paper is so smooth. It is great quality in terms of smoothness. However, the one thing that I did not like about this planner is the fact that it was mad ghosting. So we've never talked about this. Ghosting is what happens when you write certain pens or certain paper. When you write on them with certain pens and stuff, you can see the lines through the page. So if you guys remember, I did this one. This is an old bullet journal, but if you can see the lines. You're able to see everything that I drew in the back on the next page. I didn't mind it. As you can see, I still used the bullet journal. I didn't care that it was bleeding through, but I realized that I wanted thicker paper because I wanted to start using markers, but the ghosting was pretty big. So that was when I started looking into other planners and trying to figure out what else I wanted. So again, I always recommend pen testing pages because that is important. Just because you got to write well in one planner doesn't mean it writes well in another. Like, this is one of my pen test pages because every one of the pens ghosted through. So keep that in mind when you're like, what type of pens do you like to write with? Are your pens thicker? Do they have an alcohol base? Those affect how they blend and how they write on the page. And it might write well, but does it bleed? And if it bleeds, does it bleed all the way through to where it ruins the page underneath it or not? These are things you got to test. Also, let me see. I wrote all of this down. So Lloydstroms are 80 GSM. Keep that in mind. So the next one because we're going to talk about the one I'm using now after, but obviously another brand that I really like is the Dingbats brand. I do recommend looking this up. They do a lot of wildlife, earth conservation things, so I really wanted to support it. I like their, wow. Yeah. I like their idea and what they stand for, and this one also has a pocket. Only thing I didn't like about this planner, oh my gosh, I'm scrolling through and remembering some things that I definitely didn't realize I had in this planner. Like, memory times. I didn't like the ivory pages. Now, paper usually comes in like white, ivory, or cream, or unless otherwise specified. I personally like white, like I said before, so I wasn't a really big fan of this one. However, I think that the quality of this paper is really good too. The paper is really, really smooth. I had very little bleeding issues through pages. Also, another thing that I like about this planner is that it has perforated pages. So if you are worried, if you are still on this idea that your bullet journal has to be perfect, and if you mess up a page, OMG, it's the end of the world, this might be an option for you because you can just rip the pages out. They're perforated. So it will literally just look like, you just removed a page and went on about your business, which is totally fine. It's something that could totally be done. It's no big deal. I personally just, I love the feel of this paper. I just don't like the fact that it's not white. Other than that, this is a great planner. The pens that I used did not bleed. I think the only time that I had issues with bleeding was when I was trying to put watercolor in it, but this is only 100 GSM. Watercolor is not something to try on 100 GSM paper. So just keep that in mind. My favorite right now is obviously Scribbles That Matters. And these are my last 4 Scribbles That Matters. This is the one we used. This is the one we used earlier this year, and the one that just fell is the one that I'm currently using. I obviously love Scribbles That Matters. The paper is 160. The Pro version is 160 GSM, and the regular version is 160. I think, wow, my planners are kind of thick too. I really like these planners. I like the hardback of them. I like the fact that I have a pen holder. The paper is white, and the pages are smooth. So just like with the Dingbat, the paper is really good. I don't have to worry about too much bleeding. I will say that now that I've started using the Pro, where the pages are 160 instead of 100, I am picky. we'll talk about stickers too. But I like them both. It just really depends on which one has the color option that I want. I will say that these are not perforated pages. So that is something you have to keep in mind if that is something you're looking for. But the pages in this are thicker. I've used fountain pens in Scribbles That Matters, and I've not had any bleed. Obviously, I have to let it dry or it will smear, but I haven't had any bleeding issues or ghosting issues. That's funny. That's my life in bullet journal form. But yes, I think that those are good options. But again, I will try to find some cheaper alternatives that you guys can use that will actually just, make your life a lot easier. I hope this quick little rundown of paper planners and types will be helpful. Again, it does not have to be super expensive because we're going to talk about the things that you could use to start your bullet journal life in episode 3. So if you have any questions about this particular topic, please let me know down below. Thank you guys so much for checking out my channel, and until the next time, guys.